Hi, this is Tony Smith with Group 5, and this is the case study on the failed rollout of the Microsoft Xbox One.
Microsoft first revealed the Xbox brand to the world in the year 2000. With the first generation Xbox and the next generation Xbox 360, Microsoft continued to see growth in sales, but they were still falling short to their chief competitor, Sony. In the year 2013, Microsoft was looking to introduce their next generation of Xbox. On May 21st, 2013, Microsoft unveiled the Xbox One at a presentation at Microsoft headquarters. This presentation uh, brought a lot of confused consumers because Microsoft initially talked about the design and the new console, but then shifted quickly away to features that had absolutely nothing to do with video games, such as video and streaming. Microsoft then announced several other changes, such as the device had to check in every 24 hours. Games couldn't be lent to others. Games couldn't be rented, or they couldn't be freely sold or traded. These proposed changes were opposed by the gaming community, especially the idea of not being able to freely sell or trade games. Their chief competitor, Sony, was seeing this negative reaction to Microsoft's changes and was trying to use that towards their advantage. At a E3 Expo in 2013, Sony took the stage and presented that the PS4 would support used games, which led to great cheers from the audience. The swift feedback from the consumers led Microsoft to make a change. On June 19th, 2013, Microsoft issued a press release where they basically acknowledged their missteps in the promotion of the Xbox One and announced that their complete reversal of all the mentioned previous changes. Microsoft was already facing an uphill battle with trying to outsell their chief competitor, Sony. Microsoft's obvious errors in the development and promotion of the Xbox One made their goal of trying to outsell the PlayStation 4 very, very difficult. Ultimately, final sales figures showed that the PlayStation 4 sold over 111 million units, while the Xbox One only sold 47 million units. The failure of the Xbox One project was primarily due to Microsoft going into the video game industry with the wrong overall philosophy. Microsoft wanted to enter the video game industry in the year 2000 because they feared their competitors were using their consoles to gain advantages in other areas of the industry, such as home entertainment and audio systems. Due to this corporate philosophy, each generation of the Xbox after the original Xbox in 2000 steadily contained more features that were not geared just towards video games, but also towards home media such as DVDs and streaming. Their charter took the focus of Microsoft away from just video games and more into home entertainment, which led them to create a console with features designed primarily to play movies, watch TV, and quote, own the living room. Microsoft forgot that their customers might like to play movies and watch TV on their consoles, but the main reason that their consumers buy an Xbox is because they want to play video games. Microsoft should have used proper project risk management when they were considering this project. If Microsoft had used risk management, they would have taken more time to research and analyze how their consumers would accept such a fundamental shift in the console's overall functionality. Proper risk analysis would have led them to change the project's overall scope, where they would have put more emphasis on video games and less on the other areas of home entertainment such as DVDs and streaming. By ignoring these critical knowledge areas of the project, Microsoft angered their customers and gave their competitors an easy way to steal market share away from them, which was the exact opposite of what Microsoft originally wanted. The PlayStation 4 being able to sell twice as many consoles as the Xbox One shows that ultimately Microsoft's project failed to steal away customers from Sony, and instead it did the exact opposite. So what could Microsoft have done differently to make this project a success instead of a failure? I think it really boils down to the question of, could Microsoft have really changed their philosophy? They went into this entire Xbox project with the idea of creating something that was going to own the living room. An example of this would be with the Xbox One requirement to be online and check in every 24 hours. The president of Microsoft's Interactive Business, Don Matrix, said in an interview, "Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called the Xbox 360. This shows that Microsoft was completely out of touch because they were actually suggesting that customers buy an older product instead of the one they were trying to sell. It just shows that they were really, really not thinking about what they were trying to do and really weren't thinking about how their customers would react to these changes. They really should have looked into risk management. They obviously didn't do it. They obviously didn't look at how their customers would react to these sorts of changes. If they had done proper risk management, they would have realized that they would receive a huge backlash like they did, and it really would have allowed Sony to take advantage of the situation, which is exactly what Sony did, which is why overall Sony was able to sell over twice as many units as the Xbox. So overall, they should have done risk management. They would have been able to figure out the problems, and then they would have been able to change the scope of the project to focus more on video games. And that would have saved them a lot of time and money, and they would have been able to be more in competition with Sony instead of being double the sales as what ended up happening.
Hello, this is Zach Wexler with Group 5, and this is the case study for the Arabic localizer case study. So this is part 1 of the project overview for the Arabic localizer project case. So the case study that was researched was the company of Arabic Localizer. It is the lead company in providing localization, educational, and software services to the Middle East. Arabic Localizer consists of teams that operate differently according to the types of the solutions each is serving. The environment that it poses an obligation of having different rules and regulations on processing the projects that they do, which also helps with the diversity. This type of diversity makes the company involved in several other projects of different natures. The issue that this company ran into problems that dealt with having all the projects organized and managed in a system that adheres to the project time management area. So this slide is the case study problem. So the case study problem was to develop native software for Arabic localizer. So what the problem was is the Arabic localizer needed a solution that had all the projects organized and managed in a system that adhered to the project management time management. Arabic localizer project managers manage certain teams depending on the project that they are working on at different times. This also means that project managers follow up on these teams in their own ways and at different times. This leaves a margin of human error that doesn't give the working team a good view of the tasks and organizations and leads to the project failing on deadlines or project failure in the end. When project managers have many types of projects that they are running at the same time, projects can be forgotten about or things can be left out, which leads to project failure or the project just doesn't get finished. This is part 3 of the Arabic localizers case study. This deals with the project management knowledge areas, processes, and that led to the outcome of the project. So the solution that Arabic localizer's problem was to create the software that fully involves all parties and their statuses, their availability, and for all certain tasks and how long the person would be available for to do that project or task. This software should be user-friendly and should have all the options of showing data in the form of a graphical representation to make it easier for the project manager to understand and comprehend all this data. The scope of the software project was heavily influenced by the use of a Gantt chart. Because of the use of this Gantt chart was included in the development of the software, it made it easier to understand and use. The adoption of the Gantt chart offers the project manager the ability to assign certain tasks to employees. The acceptance of these attachments that were all allowed to be attached to the task allowed them to have the documentation that they were needing. So the acceptance of attachments on the task in the chart allows the project manager and employee to use them as references or documentation. Other knowledge areas that were positively influenced were time management, cost management, and quality management. Time management was affected positively because the software continuously updates and keeps everyone up to date on any changes made by other employees. The cost management was also affected because the software saved hours of calculating, confusion, and repetitive data entry on other projects that could have been avoided completely in the beginning. This allows the employees to work on other projects instead of having to continuously calculate project hours and calculations, and any confusion that might come out of miscalculations because of human error. The cost of repetitive data entry is also avoided because this software makes it so simple to change the data in a timely manner. Lastly, quality management led to the success of this project because its user functionality was also incorporated into its design. Because of this design, it will be effective for any project manager to use and also train new employees to use for the foreseeable future. This slide deals with other knowledge areas or processes that were affected. There are 3 areas that were affected: time management, cost management, and quality management. Time management was affected because the software continuously updates and keeps everyone up to date on any changes made by any other employees. The hours of calculating, all the confusion, and the repetitive data entry on other projects were completely avoided because of this. Cost management was also affected. Since the software saved many hours of calculating, confusion, and also hours of repetitive data entry on other projects, money was also saved because of all these not having to be done. The last is quality management. This software also included the user functionality into its design, which made it easier for many people to learn and to be able to be used in daily day-to-day processes. Also, it was also used and also can be used to be trained to other employees for the foreseeable future. This is part 4 for possible improvements to the Arabic localizer software that they created with the Gantt chart. So during my research for this project case, they did everything right in using a Gantt chart, which helps with ease of use and being able to complete all their projects perfectly and organized properly. But one thing I started to think about was an improvement that they could do on maybe the next iteration of the software or during the next update would be that they would have added to the success would have been able to have the software send an email out, possibly connecting to the software on updates for the project managers. This email that would be sent out would include maybe when a new task is created, a task is assigned, when the project due date comes near, or the completion of the projects is complete. So maybe when the project date is near and the project has not been updated, or it's coming near and it's not near complete, that at least the project manager would know that it's coming near and wouldn't come as a surprise in case it becomes late.
Hi, this is Ron Ramkalawan presenting the ECRM application case study for Group 5. Project overview of the ECRM case. The case is about a global technology solutions organization that needed to create a web-based software application. The software application goal was to provide a direct link to customers that provided access to the supply chain processes to circumvent their partners later on. The project itself cost $300 million and took 3 years to complete. The project identified many key factors that led to the failure, such as quality management, which included lack of training, ambiguous objectives, cultural resistors, unrealistic objectives, increased workload, and poor leadership. Those processes are all part of quality management and are essential in building the assurances to stakeholders. Quality management and continuous evaluation are part of the process and must be emphasized throughout the life cycle of the project. In this case study, those processes broke and were not effective in helping the organization achieve its goal. What led to the failure of this project were poor communications, lack of relevant training, ambiguous objectives, cultural resistors, unrealistic objectives, increased workload, and poor leadership. In plant management, quality and continuous evaluation within the scope, time, and cost of the project, in this case, failed to be emphasized. The controls that were in place to monitor the project was not effectively validated in the progress of the project. Project managers did not make corrective measures along the way to keep the scope, time, and quality of the project on a successful path. When control is ineffective, the project cannot identify problems early on to allow the project managers to address the situation in time to make corrective measures. So keeping an eye on scope, time, and quality throughout the cycle of the project would have been an effective method in helping them have a successful project. But in this case, it was not. Part 3. Identify possible improvements. In most project management cases, it is imperative to have the stakeholders as part of the project involvement. It's important to have their input for the project's success. Without their buy-in and support to carry out the initiative of the project goal itself, each specific aspect would not adhere to the quality as expected. In this situation, this ECRM software application, web application project, there needed to be a person that championed the initiative of the project. And the project managers are also ultimately responsible for the quality of the project. So that way the project itself is always on the forefront of the stakeholders. They're aware of the situation and what is going on, and they can always provide input if they find that there is something that's not being corrected. There must be room to maneuver with the change as well as it happens. So the frequent nature when it does happen, and it happens often in the dynamic of project management, it gives the project managers time to adjust and keep a good control of the time, cost, and scope of the project, and it gives them time to respond to the changes that's taken place. Analysis of all 3 cases. In project management, every project is different when trying to replicate past successes. When a new project is initiated and the goal for the project manager is to simply incorporate the right tools from each process during the course of a project. However, sometimes that is not always what happens, and depending on the organization culture, environment, and political atmosphere, the combination does not always give us the results we're expecting on a project. On evaluating the 3 projects that was identified in the study in the slides, they all have common aspects that they all share. The project management principles that they share are either what made the project a success or a failure. They include the principles such as having a formal project management plan, project sponsor, objective goal, outcomes, documented roles, responsibilities, risk management, performance management, and a clear communications plan. These principles are not unique. Projects need to have a formalized structure, including processes, procedures, and tools. However, not all projects maintain these principles. Most common factor behind the failed projects listed seems to be a lack of clear goals. The failed project's goals were not determined and may not have been documented at the beginning of the project, which would have been identified in the project charter and could have been used in the quality management methods.
In the project management field of work, there is no one single way of ensuring that you will have success. It takes a combination of things in a person, like being honest, realistic, detailed, organized, having good listening skills, and being a problem solver, to name just a few qualities. Embracing change is also at the top of the list, and having a good sense of humor. Project management can be nerve-wracking, but if none of the things listed deters your goal of becoming a project manager, then jump right in, and you will have many successes in your career.